How did the Romanov dynasty begin? When you think of the Romanovs, you probably think of Tsar Nicholas II or his daughter Anastasia. Maybe you think of Catherine the Great or even Peter the Great. But the first ruler of the Romanov dynasty was actually a teenage boy. His name was Mikhail, or in the anglicized version, Michael Romanov. Michael was declared the heir to the Russian throne due to his connections to the Rurik dynasty. The first wife of Ivan the Terrible, Anastasia Romanovna, was actually Michael's great-aunt. In 1613, an assembly known as the Zemsky Sabor formed a council to discuss who the new Tsar should be. They all needed to agree on a ruler in order to bring stability to Russia. Russia was caught in a period known as the Time of Troubles. During this time, there were a series of uprisings, foreign invasions, and just too many people pretending to be someone named Dmitri. Go check out my series on the false Dmitris. And one of the people who had claimed the Russian throne, Boris Godunov, had actually accused Michael's father of treason and had him exiled. He also forced Michael and his mother to live in a monastery, and he forced Michael's mother to become a nun. However, after Boris Godunov eventually died, and a series of other czars came and went, the Zemsky Sabor decided to go find Michael. They were actually located in a monastery near Apatiev. Michael very, very reluctantly agreed to be Tsar. The coronation took place in July 1613, just a day before his 17th birthday. It's also worth noting that Michael's mother originally didn't want her son to be Tsar. She was worried that he was too young for such a tumultuous role. However, for the Zemsky Sabor, many of whom had secretly hoped to become Tsars themselves, Michael, as a young, not particularly well-educated boy with a bad leg, he's the ideal puppet. But he proved a bit of a challenge at times, as he decided to keep his family members close to him during his rule. As a Tsar, one of his first missions was to drive out occupying forces, specifically forces from Sweden and Poland. And this was by no means a small effort. In fact, this campaign took years. But it did result in the Treaty of Stolbovo and the Truce of Diolino, which ended up allowing him to free his father, Filaret, from captivity. Funnily enough, despite his time in captivity, Filaret was still upset with his son for taking the Russian throne without his permission. And once back in Russia, Filaret was installed as the patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church, and essentially acted as Michael's right-hand man until he died in 1633. And this period of rule between Filaret and Michael was marked by governmental reform and the strengthening of the Russian treasury, which unfortunately meant reinforcing serfdom. Michael's reign also oversaw conflict with Poland, as you can imagine. Europe was being decimated by the 30 Years' War during this time, and Filaret saw it as the perfect opportunity to take revenge against the Poles. Although during his exile, he had learned that the Poles and Swedes were more technologically advanced. But because of the vulnerability due to other conflicts, he was able to help Michael exploit those same vulnerabilities. When it came to Michael's personal life, he was married twice. His first wife, Maria Vladimirovna Dolgorukovna, whom he married in 1624, died only 4 months into their marriage. Then a few years later, in 1626, he married Eudokia Streshneva, with whom he fathered 10 children, with 4 of these children surviving to adulthood, including the heir to the throne, the young Alexei. He also had 3 daughters named Irina, Anna, and Tatiana. However, his failure to wed his oldest daughter, Irina, to a powerful Danish prince, was said to have taken a terrible toll on his overall health. He was so upset that they say it contributed to his ultimate death. He became very unwell and was heavily depressed, and his doctors prescribed him purgatives, which, as you can imagine, did not help. One day he collapsed during a church service and supposedly said, "My insides are being torn apart," before he fainted. Then he died in July of 1645. Up next, we'll talk about Michael's son, Alexei, whose reign oversaw riots and a religious schism.